Hello everyone, today in this video we will fight against the atmosphere of our world around us, and today we will discuss the case how to make people buy the things, many people buy the things which are not good for them, not efficient, not giving them profits, but simply people buy them. Many people buy them. Why? Because there are subsidies from the state. Sometimes, especially socialistic states, subsidize something. Like currently, there is a subsidy for electric cars, electric vehicles, called cars to confuse the people. So for these electric vehicles, many states for the last years, like Norway, Germany, were giving subsidies that if one buys this electric vehicle, one gets 30% of the price covered by the subsidy from the state. And many people were buying, especially in Norway, and now about 20% of the fleet of the cars in Norway is electric, and firefighters are not able to go from one intervention to another because there are so many explosions, and they burn like a grass on the savannah in the summer, these electric cars. Okay, but now the uh, uh, the selling rate of the electric cars decreased, especially last year. In the middle of last year, Norwegian government, if I remember correctly, it was last year, in the more or less in the middle, withdraw the subsidies for the electric vehicles, and their and the number of electric vehicles sold in Norway decreased dramatically in comparison to the previous times, and it's still decreasing. At the end of the last year, German government withdrawn the subsidies of the electric cars, and of course, the number of electric cars sold in Germany decreased dramatically. The same in United Kingdom, so Great Britain. So we see how it works. That something that it's good, and people know that they need it, that people try it, they like it, it works, doesn't need subsidies to be purchased by people. But if something is not good, if something is problematic, to sell it in larger amounts, subsidies are needed. But once they are over, uh, the selling rate of this item is falling down, of course. And now we see that electric vehicles, some people call them cars, are really not eco-friendly due to the fact that they have batteries, due to the fact that there are many ions of rare metals, and due to the fact that there are many plastics and many liquids that are used for conducting the current and make electrolysis. So, the sad thing is that the utilization of all of these batteries, all of these plastics, and all of these metals uh, is really difficult. That's why I'm really worried what will really happen, and it will happen soon, when the these electric vehicles will go there where they have their place. It means to the garbage bin. So unfortunately the utilization is too expensive. And here we see how the real socialism really works. Like any other socialism, always brings disaster for people and disaster for environment. And now let's make the extrapolation into the future and assume that in 2035, and as it is planned, the ban for the registration of electric fossil fuel cars, the ban will be introduced. So how can we imagine that entire population will be using these electric vehicles that are really weak, they have really weak parameters, and nothing I think will improve in the next years, that are all that are burning like grass on the savannah in the summer, and when they are burning, of course, they are not emitting CO2. according to the leftists, I think, because all of these accidents recently in Netherlands, when in the ferry there were many cars and few electric cars, and one of them exploded. There was a huge fire, and for many days, many firefighters were fighting to extinguish it. And leftist media, were suppressing this info, and they were deleting all comments from the people who were saying, "Oh, how huge amount of CO2 is being released to the atmosphere." Yeah, so this CO2 is fine from the electric vehicles, but CO2 from the fossil fuels is bad. As a chemist with many years of experience, I can tell you it's the same CO2, and CO2 is needed for plants, needed for nature, needed for us to live. And as if we take first better textbook of geology, we can read that like 200 millions years ago, something like this, the level of CO2 was much higher within the atmosphere, and life in the on the planet was really diverse. The nature was vibrant. There were huge ferns and many other plants. There were huge insects and many other species we that are still to be discovered and enrich our knowledge of paleobiology. But now we are being terrorized that, oh, the level of CO2 increased a little bit. What's the problem? What's the problem? It's needed for plants. I still remember that in many places where CO2 level is lower, there are guys walking with the pipes and engine and making a lot of smoke around these plants to give them CO2. The ones who were in Egypt, for instance in Hurghada for holidays, I'm sure they saw it. So if you know basics of biology and chemistry and geology, you will not swallow this crap from the green socialist propagandist. And that is why I encourage you to learn, and I encourage you to always know how things like subsidies ends up. They ends up always in the same way. When there is a subsidy, there are always some people who are buying something because it's artificially cheaper. But once the subsidy is over, the the selling rates are falling down and no one wants to buy it anymore because suddenly one is forced to bear all the consequences and all the cost of this equipment that it's not optimized, doesn't work well, and it's not good for us, it's not good for the environment. If we really love our environment, we should always remember that we should look for the optimal solutions, and optimal solutions are, as of now, fossil fuels used with the filters. And just as a historical curiosity, I can just tell you that in the beginning of 20th century, when automobiles occurred in the Western world, people were seeing them as very ecological, because in contrast to the doggies with horses that were always that were present then in the Western cities as a sort of transport in comparison to doggies with horses. The cars were considered ecological because there was a problem with horse feces and cleaning them. So 120 years ago, cars were regarded as very ecological with comparison to the horse based transportation with doggies in the Western cities in North America and Europe. Interesting, isn't it? All the best. Have a nice day. Bye.